got to put Delaware State up there. The president of Delaware State used to work for me, went and got his doctorate and said, this is not the good job, I'm going to be president of the university. But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum. She might have something to say about Delaware State.
Did you catch that? The president mistakenly called his VP the president today during a commencement address at South Carolina State University. And this isn't the first time he's had a slip of the tongue. But it does come just one day after this report in the Wall Street Journal where Vice President Harris was asked whether or not she and President Biden have discussed a re-election run in 2024. Here's what she told the publication. I'm not going to talk about our conversations, but I will tell you this without any ambiguity. We do not talk about, nor have we talked about re-election because we haven't completed our first year and we're in the middle of a pandemic. The VP's interview also touched on topics like voting rights. And although Vice President Harris wouldn't say what she's advised the president to do, she did disclose that ultimately the Senate is going to have to make a decision about the filibuster. The VP's Wall Street Journal interview comes more than 1 week after Black female leaders suggested that she give more public updates. It appears she took the advice and has held several public events and even gave a sit-down interview to the San Francisco Chronicle. Joining me now to discuss this is the president of Sisters Lead Sisters Vote, Holly Holliday, and back to join us is Mary C. Curtis, columnist for CQ Roll Call and the host of Equal Time with Mary C. Curtis podcast. Welcome, ladies. Holly, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this interview that she gave to the Wall Street Journal and her comments on voting rights, immigration, and the economy?
Well, I think the vice president has been very clear, and I agree with her. I think it is premature for us to be talking about a re-election for the Biden-Harris campaign. Frankly, I want them focused on what their jobs are right now, and if they're going to focus on any politics, let's focus on what we're going to do in these midterms. We need more senators. The Democrats definitely need more senators if they're going to do anything about this filibuster, which we all, I think, agree needs to be dealt with. If we're going to have any hope in not just passing voting rights, Build Back Better, but frankly, the other important pieces of legislation that we are depending on this administration to pass, we need to send them some help.
Yeah, and Mary, she has been asked about 2024 before by ABC's George Stephanopoulos and also answered in the same similar fashion. But President Biden, he'll be 82 years old on Inauguration Day in the year 2025. So what do you think her game plan really is, or what should it be?
Well, it's interesting he had that slip where he called her the president because she certainly is covered as though she is the president and not the vice president. I don't quite remember this kind of coverage of Vice President Pence or Vice President Biden when he was vice president to Obama. But because he is old, she is going to get those questions. She will be under scrutiny. And let's face it, because she is a pioneer, a woman of color, first woman vice president, all of those things, she is going to come under that kind of scrutiny. And because, of course, she's had some staff departures. So I think coming up, what she'll be doing is having a reset with a new team. That is her game plan. I think it is fair to say they have only been there for a year and they've had incredible amounts of crises to deal with. But I think also they do want to be out there more with her accomplishments and setting her up as someone who is a future face of the party. So much of the coverage has been not balanced. You see talk about her Bluetooth habits or what she spends on cookware, when she has been out there taking some substantive foreign policy trips. Just this week, she took the lead on the replacing lead pipes, a centerpiece of the bipartisan infrastructure bill to deliver clean drinking water to families. She's been talking about maternal health, hosting that day of action. So I think her game plan at this point is to focus on some of these initiatives that she is doing, get a solid staff in place.
Yeah, Mary, you bring up some good points about her being, being compared differently than past vice presidents. In fact, Holly, she kind of gets unusually harsh criticism. In fact, we have to remember that Joe Biden himself was vice president. And what do we remember what he did as vice president? So I'm wondering, Holly, what do you think she needs to do to get her favorability numbers up?
Well, I agree with what Mary just shared. I mean, we need a team in place that's going to deal with the fact that, let's just be completely honest here, because she is not your typical vice president. She is the first Southeast Asian and Black woman to be president, woman to be vice president. See, I made the slip too, woman to be vice president. And we have to
Wishful
understand that
thinking
that
there,
is going to
Holly.
require us to be different. It's going to require her team to show up different. We don't have a playbook for how we defend against racism and sexism at the highest levels of government because we've never had to. So her team is going to have to get sharp and savvy fast and begin to really counterbalance these messages and push back against this unfair scrutiny, not just for her ability to move policy and potentially run for reelection should she so choose. But frankly, folks are looking at the playbook and whether or not it's working. And if it's successful with her, you can bet the historic number of women that are running for offices up and down the ticket in 2022 are going to be faced with these exact same challenges. And that's why we really
Yeah, of
need
course.
to be cohesive in this pushback strategy.
So, Mary, you named a bunch of issues she's been given and tasks. Which do you think she needs to get done first?
Well, I think so many folks who voted for the Biden ticket, all the folks that came out and gave them that win, would be very disappointed if they don't do more action on voting rights, for one, because, they were down, President Biden was in South Carolina State with Majority Whip Clyburn, who has been sounding the alarm. He's been on my podcast a couple of times. And democracy is at stake because of all of these laws that are out there. And immigration is another issue. She has announced some money just recently as well, investments in Central America to try to stimulate growth in that part of the world. So there's a lot of incredible things on the list, but I'd say that those are some ones at the top of the list. And of course, the economy, everybody is concerned about that. But voting rights is one that really now is very crucial because of all these laws and the midterms coming up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's just so much going on in the world, globally, here at home. I mean, she is operating in unprecedented times. But there's also been speculation that Hillary Clinton, let's bring her back up, may or should run in 2024, as it looks all but certain that Trump will run again. Holly, what do you think a race like that would look like?
Oh, I don't think that we're at the Hillary Clinton moment at this time. I think that, we have a number of really rising stars on the horizon within the Democratic Party. If there's not going to be a Biden Harris ticket, then I think that we're going to be looking towards some of the dynamic leaders that we see that are already serving, that have been moving forward and taking leadership positions. I think it's too early to speculate what that field is going to look like in 2024. I know for our organization and for what folks that I'm talking to in and around the country and especially in DC, we are laser focused on what's going to happen in this 2022 election. So much hangs in the balance. And I think it's too early and probably not appropriate for us to be pulling Hillary Clinton back on the campaign trail yet. She definitely has a role to play. I don't know if that role is candidate.
Mary, real quick before I leave you guys, if you had to give her a grade on the report card, what would you give VP Harris right now? What grade would you give her?
Ooh, I'm not one to give grades. I just think that you put me on the spot here, but I do agree with all the guests that she needs to be a little bit probably out there a little bit more and have a cohesive plan. And just to say what is being done, I think both the total administration needs their messaging could be better on basically what's in these bills and what's going to happen, and that should be their concentration. So, you know, maybe the grade is incomplete, but they have a lot of work to do, and you know,
You
they'll
ladies
be
are
on
tough.
the
This
case, I'm
woman is the
sure.
first black woman to have this position. I cannot believe this. I mean, people give support for people with much lesser credentials. So you are a tough cookie there, Mary, but that's what we need.
Well,
We
I'm
want to
just
hold
saying
everybody
I'd give
accountable. So
anybody an
thank you.
incomplete because we'll have to see what's going on. But I think that she does have a lot of accomplishments that aren't being put out there. And when I see some of I do think, even though you can't blame the media totally, some of the things that she is being criticized for, when, you know, they're anonymous sources. And when you have named sources like Ron Klain, the chief of staff for Biden, he's giving her A+ marks and saying, wait a minute, she is doing quite well. So I do think that because she is this pioneer, that she is getting this added scrutiny. And I do think that that is unfair.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Holly Holiday, I'm going to see you back here shortly since you're sticking around for our next story. Thanks, ladies.